They're guys. They do magic. They are the Magic Guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 199. My goodness, that signifies almost 4 years worth of podcast episodes. This is crazy. My friends, to my left, we have Nick K.
We're talking Rubik's Cube today, people.
Oh, we are indeed. We are indeed. When did you start learning Rubik's Cubes, Nick? Like how long ago?
I probably started doing it kind of mid my career. So I'll probably say like 5 years into it when I came across Cube Effects and the stuff that Karl Heinz was doing. I've spoken to him at length, like about it a lot over chicken and waffles, like when I was in Vegas. Yeah. And his ideas were brilliant, but they were hard. You know,
they were hard. I remember seeing him lecture and I was like, no one's doing this surely apart from him, because this is crazy.
Right.
And then of course Stephen Brundage came out and everyone's like, okay, we have to know this. Was there like a pivotal moment that made you go, okay, I am going to start learning? Was it seeing him or did something else happen?
No, I attempted it and I failed miserably at first, but then I had a friend of mine called Val who builds all my props. He's an ex cabinet builder, and he used to build kitchens and so forth for like high-rise buildings and so forth. And then he went from doing that into illusions, and he taught me how to solve my first cube, and how to sort of work on stuff and how to sort of simplify it. And that's kind of where I caught the bug at first, and then got into Karl Heinz. So yeah, but I think that Brundage, he had a way of simplifying that. But, you know, this is sort of things that are up for discussion, I think, with our guest today.
100%. And just the short story for me was I was against learning cube stuff. I was like, I've spent too damn long learning cards and coins and whatever. And then I did an 80s themed party, and on every cocktail table was a Rubik's Cube.
Oh.
And every table was like, can you solve this? And I was like, damn it, I can't solve it. I was like, because if I had have learned, I could have done miracles anyway. And so that mixed with seeing Stephen Brundage do it, I was like, okay. Mixed with, I did learn it pre-COVID. So yeah, it was just those two occurrences. I was like, okay, I should learn. Anyway, we've got an amazing guest coming on today, and we've been foreshadowing it with our Rubik's Cube talk. Also, thank you to everyone who's joined us live to see this conversation. Nick, who we got in the chat today?
Well, the guys in the chat, it's good to see our local friends again. Thomas Conger, good to see you, friend. Scotty Link, Gary Davis, he's ready now, he says. We also have Eleanor Hunter. We're going to make fun about that later. Harvey, Seth, Rod, thank you all for being here to see our guest. Now, our guest hails all the way from the UK on a totally different time zone. Thankfully, he's like wide awake and entirely alert and excited to be part of this chat. We first stumbled upon this amazing talent through social media, which Josh brought it to my attention, showing this wonderful work that he does. And we were just like, we got to get this guy in the pod. So please join us in welcoming the highly anticipated Mr. Daniel Mays.
Hello.
Hello, Daniel Mays.
Hello. Oh my gosh.
Let me figure out how to take your wonderful face off the screen. Boom! There we go. There he is. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give him a round of applause.
Woo!
There he is.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here, buddy. What time is it on your side of the planet?
We have just passed midnight, so we are it's officially tomorrow.
Wow.
It is always a trip for us in Australia. Every time we do a podcast, Doug, who is not here today because he's getting ready to be Santa, obviously next week. Busy day ahead of him next week. But in the US, it's always the day before, so it's always a little trippy. Just so you know, Dan, it's going to be raining tomorrow because it's raining today for us in the future.
Thanks
anyway,
for letting me
know. That was stupid. How is the Christmas gig season for you in the UK?
Well, before we jump into that, let's just quickly, why don't you tell everyone who you are and what you do for folks who don't know you for the first time?
So I'm a UK-based magician. I'm mainly based around Manchester, Liverpool area. So kind of the north of the UK for those of you that don't know. And I do weddings, corporate gigs, but I'm mostly known for the work I do with the Rubik's Cube. And I am a resident magician at the Oracle Bar in Liverpool, which is a super cool, special kind of magic bar. There's nowhere like it. I've never ever come across anywhere like it, and I'm so delighted to be able to work there sort of from time to time, generally sort of once a week or so. And I get to work with a team of magicians, and we all work together on various different things. And I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit, but I do a lot of magic with the Rubik's Cube, cards, and mentalism, all of the stuff. But I'm fairly new to the professional side of magic, and I'm just so keen on getting stuck in, basically. So
Now, you say that you're very new to this realm, which I find like really, really cool. So ultimately, you're a very young, handsome 22-year-old UK magician, and only just recently gone kind of full time.
yes, in the last 6 months, I've been full time, and it's going well so far.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, Nick, you can see the
The parody.
enthusiasm still in his eyes.
That's
That's how you know he's only just become the journey of full time.
How long will that enthusiasm last, Josh?
I want to give it. I would say after 2 years, you're like, all right.
I don't know.
another year.
I still
Here we
think
go.
you've got it in your eyes as well. I think so.
That's the caffeine. Perfect time to mention that we have our Christmas themed Magic Guys mug at the moment, which a lot of our fellow Magic Guys have already at home. I've been seeing some pictures come from that, and that's a perfect sized brew cup there. So thank you for that segue, Dan. But no, you're right. I absolutely, both Nick and I still have the fire 100%. That's why we're still doing it. And that's why we do a podcast that makes no money, but gets us so fired up chatting to great people like yourself. The trick when you're doing it long term is to always be challenging yourself to up your game and like do stuff that like pushes you. You have to always be like challenging yourself or doing difficult stuff or risky stuff or stuff that keeps making you evolve. Because if you just go, oh yep, that's my 6 tricks I'll just forever do, that's when you start to really lose interest and go into autopilot and not look forward to gigs and stuff. So
For sure.
that's mainly why I do stack work, because it's so hard and I have to really be in the moment to like pull it off.
Yeah.
Same with cube stuff. You do one wrong
Oh, absolutely.
permutation and you look like an idiot. There's like such a fine line between looking like an idiot and looking like God,
I think it's so true. You've got to do something that you get a kick out of as well as the audience, because if you're doing something that you enjoy, then the likelihood is they're going to love it too.
And right now, sorry, yeah, absolutely. Right now there are events happening, every 10 minutes. And so the question I was foreshadowing at the start is, how is the Christmas season in the UK? What's your schedule like? How are you like figuring everything out, jumping from gig to gig, if that is what you're doing? Or what's it like?
Yeah, well, it's pretty good. I think next year will be even busier. This year is pretty packed out. I've got maybe another week and a half or so of gigs lined up, which should be all different, as they all are. And I'm booked on Christmas Day as well now, which is a new one. I didn't expect that at
Ooh.
all. But it's going to be exciting to be actually on Christmas doing that. But I think I'm going to then hare it down the motorway and try and find my family afterwards.
So this is basically your first season, like your first 4 seasons as a magician. Like you're going through it. But this is really cool because it's not
Absolutely.
very often that our audience get to meet someone like yourself who's sort of gone into that. You know what I mean? So going into what is effectively going to be your busiest period that you're experiencing for the first time. It's only going to get busier, obviously, as your popularity grows, as your skills grow, and so forth. So a question that I would like to present, as anyone else listening to this, we're just establishing that you've gone from, just to preface this as well, you were doing architecture prior to this?
Yes, that's on pause. I might go back to it. But I think there's something to be said about trying to follow your dreams while you're young. And I don't know how I don't know how the next year is going to pan out. I'm hoping it's going to be great. But I've deferred the place at university, so if need be, I can go back. But if you ask me now, I don't think I will.
Yeah, it's funny because I have this vision like I'm an architect and like what do you do? Like I build stuff and then you're getting playing cards. You're trying to like
Oh
build a
yes,
house
Yeah.
like this, and
I'm
then you're
excellent
sort
at
of
doing
like,
the
hang on
yeah,
a
yeah, absolutely
second.
the cards.
Yeah, you're like, here I am building houses with cards like an idiot when I could be doing magic.
Well, look, you can build your character off that, like there's already that effect built on that where you build up the house and then you take away the edge and that shouldn't be out of balance and,
Yeah, I forgot about
all that fun stuff. But yeah, this is such an exciting time for you. I mean, I can tell if you're 6 months in and you're as busy as I'm seeing you are online and you have a residency, like you're building all the pillars to really set yourself up well, which is great. And you have the right attitude. You don't seem cocky, like I'm the greatest magician. You seem like you're trying to have fun with your audience, from what I see anyway. How with cube magic is not easy to do in terms of entertaining an audience because, a cube is meant to be just as a puzzle for one person to do themselves. So what was your kind of discovery into making it entertaining and then deciding to sort of make that your brand?
So, I mean, like a lot of magicians, I saw Stephen Brundage on Britain's Got Talent, and it was amazing. And I remember seeing that as a kid, thinking this is just outstanding. And I've always done the Rubik's Cube before I did magic. So for me, being able
Really?
to, yeah, I've always been a cuber, to use
So,
that awful
so
term.
question about that. So like tell me the timeline. I was this old when I got into cubes, and then I was this old when I got into magic, and now I'm 22. So fill us in on that.
So I
So
was
you
probably
saw Stephen Brundage when you were 3, right?
I saw his act on YouTube. I do not know when. I didn't see it live. But I was probably about sort of 10, 12 when I was first solving cubes.
Mhm.
But I wasn't obsessed with them at that point. I enjoyed, the puzzle as everybody does. And it was something with my dad that I could kind of, relate to, and he taught me. And so now whenever I do it, there's that kind of connection. But I do think it inspired the magic quite a lot when I saw Stephen doing all of these different things with it. Um, and then I kind of began doing it more and more and creating my own stuff with it pretty early on, because when you enter magic, you see this enormous page of endless material. Everyone's already done something that, if you're going into cards, then the number of books and different, it's endless, and that's brilliant, and I love all of that. But I think for me, being able to do magic with the Rubik's Cube was a way of kind of sticking my stamp on the world sooner, in a way, whilst I, absorb all this other stuff. It's probably the only branch of magic that I feel confident to talk about, because I have not studied and I haven't had the time to study as, all of the other stuff there is. And I guess for me, it was a way of bringing my own person into magic, but also, um, doing something that I really enjoyed. And there's I think there's so much you can do with it, and it bothers me that people have this stigma about Rubik's Cube magic. This is specifically for the magicians. That all you're doing with it is putting it into a combination, and that's it. And you both do Rubik's Cube magic, as I've done my research. And as you know, it's all about doing something different with it, which makes it exciting. And I think for people that say that there's only one or two things you can do with a prop in magic, it's
Mhm.
magic is endless. You can do anything. So it's really it's something different, I guess,
Hmm.
in what I see in magic at the moment, and it allows me to still feel like I'm creating stuff, but at the same time studying so much, because there is so much to learn elsewhere.
So as far as the disciplines in magic go, like you would have cube magic, which would probably be, you'd probably say, a comfortable decade under your belt as far as tinkering with the cube. But as far as the other disciplines like cards and coins, that's a relatively new aspect for
Oh yeah,
yourself.
well, I've done performance. I think my background is definitely in acting and theatre, but I've always messed with cards. But I think I've only been properly doing it for 1 or 2 years.
There you go. Wow. And do you find any parodies or common ground between like the disciplines? Seeing that, like, if we're going to sort of put them on a scale, like number one would be cubes. Do you see any sort of parodies between the two?
How do you mean? Do you mean difficulties or kind of?
Any common ground? Any sort of thing that you can go like, you know what? I wonder if I could apply this principle that I
Oh,
have.
absolutely.
Cards.
Oh, so many things. So many things.
Mm.
I think
You know what I mean?
it's
Like, so for example, a false shuffle isn't too dissimilar from a, false mix or a
a
false.
Rubik's false mix. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I definitely think any genre of magic that I end up studying, I link to cubes innately. I do it. I've got some new stuff at the moment with kind of putting cards into cubes, which is quite a fun idea.
Mm.
And if I haven't explored coin magic at all, but I'm sure there could be so many different things. I'd love to do something with mirrors and cubes. I think that could play really nicely. I
Mhm.
mean, sky's the limit, basically. And I think if you have something that you can start from, it allows you to build off that rather than coming at magic with a completely blank canvas, which I think can feel quite overwhelming.
Yeah, and you've learned a lot from Kev G, right? Who we've had on this
Yes.
podcast before,
Oh, I love Kev. He's brilliant. His work is just fantastic.
and that's how we kind of connected, right? Because I performed one of his effects he put out with the letters on the cube, which I used to spell the host that was interviewing me and to change the cube that way. But
And I haven't
well,
seen that. I thought that was really original.
thank you. Well, I found that effect I think was really well thought out, but I found from trying to perform it to audiences, they didn't find it as interesting as I found it. Like, look, we predicted something, and now it says it on the cube. But when you make it their name, now it seems a bit more personable and interesting because everyone loves their own name, and so it becomes a bit more fun. But a question I have for you is the thing that people I think, well, something I was worried about in the beginning was with cube magic, you should know how to solve a cube if you're going to do cube magic, is the first thing I think, especially in close up, because
Totally agree.
what happens when people are going, wow, that stuff's too amazing. That can't be a real cube. Can I mix it up? What's your next step when someone says that to you in a performance?
When someone asks to mix up the cube, I say absolutely, go for it. It's you've got to be able to just say yes. And in fact, I would say in most of my Rubik's Cube routines that I do, it has to involve them mixing it up in some way, because that is what you do with this item. And if they're not doing that, then it's not as special, it's not as meaningful. And also I think they have to examine it because it is a little bit different to a pack of cards. It's just like when you hand a pack of cards out to someone to shuffle or to check out. Even if you're not innately saying examine this pack of cards and check it's normal, even if you're not saying that, that is what you're doing, and there's a real purpose to that. I think you really want them to hold onto the cube, and even at the end of my wedding sets or anything that's a bit more special, I will leave the cube with them because it ticks that box off, right? And it's then special.
I couldn't recommend that any higher as well. Like, I think I pay for Henry Harris's, like if he ever has kids, I swear I feel like I paid for their college because I'm always ordering dozens of cubes, because at the end of my show, I give it away because I think, like you just said, you have to. Otherwise, they assume it must be a trick cube in some way. But you give it to them, now the audience knows, holy crap, this is actually happening. And something interesting, I think we talked about this. You don't use special cubes, I'll say. Like, you mainly use a regular cube.
Yes, I mean,
in your close-up.
I've been looking into the gimmicks a bit more recently because they are so exciting. There's so many different things you could do with them, but I was so keen on developing 2 or 3 strong routines with normal Rubik's cubes to almost get that baseline understanding. And I'm the same with other branches of magic. So cards, I try not to use any gimmicks with that just yet. I'm sure in a few years' time, when I need to reignite the fire, I will do that. But yeah, I think if you can do magic with something that isn't at all doctored and it is a normal item, it's more effective so much.
I
So,
have
yeah,
thought,
So what I'm curious about is like, so the folks that might not be too familiar with Rubik's cubes, because it is as far as magic goes, it's a relatively new realm. You know what I mean? Mind
Yes.
reading's been around a long time. You know, it dates all the way back to the 1800s and so forth. But a Rubik's cube is quite unique. And what I'm curious about is like, what is a list? And before we throw to some questions in the chat, now guys, if you do have questions, do pop them in the chat. It is a live show, so please stop. We'll throw all the questions at Daniel in a moment. But before we do, I wanted to ask, like, with coins, you got coins across. You've got three fly. You've got muscle passes and so forth, like gravity coin, if you will. There's all these different types of effects. Cards have triumph, memorized deck, etc. What's the sort of list that you have that with regards to effects that you've created?
Oh my gosh, so many.
Well, fire away. Yeah, let's hear it.
So first of all, what I do want to say is I feel like there is a list of different ways of solving it that all are really the same trick. Someone picks up a Rubik's cube and super fast does a solve and it's back to normal. And
right.
That is great, but if you're the one doing it, it doesn't feel right unless it's the last thing that you do and you leave it on, because it does feel like the final thing that you should do with the cube is something I've always said. So I think just the solves that you can do, all of the list of that, I know that Sam Huang does a lot of different things with his new project and they're brilliant, but I would never do more than one of those in a routine, if that makes sense. So I kind of put them into a, it's a bit like which pass do you use it with cards, or which, I think.
Yeah, you can do 20 controls, but it's the same trick.
And you do the one that fits the environment the best at that moment.
Right. But effectively, like, you've got solves, just like you
have solves normal. Yeah, exactly. And likewise, you've got matches, which is another huge branch. There's so many different ways that you can match two Rubik's cubes. If you can do it without gimmicks, I think that's even better. And there are hundreds of ways to do it with other extra ones, but that is an amazing effect that is always going to go down a treat.
Mm-hmm.
I would then say the solution is probably my favorite Rubik's Cube trick out there. It's just so good. Anyone that's doing Rubik's Cube magic that isn't using the solution needs to go and find it, because Michael Murray is a genius. And the wording that you use I find it just outstanding, the difference between when you solve a cube, like super fast, to when you're getting somebody else to solve a cube. I mean, that they are totally different levels of
Can you explain it for the listeners what the solution actually is?
Yeah, of course.
Like what the audience sees.
Yes, so the audience sees you handing the spectator a mixed up Rubik's Cube, and they are instructed to turn it behind their back. And the way I do it anyway, I get somebody else, maybe they're, whoever they've come to the show with or whoever they're with, to say stop. And at that point, that's the spectators asked to stop turning. And then with a bit of build up, maybe it's a countdown, maybe it's some other way, they bring the cube out and it is solved behind their back, and they have actually done it themselves. And it's a normal Rubik's cube. It's just a different way of presenting this trick. But for me, it stands on a plinth far higher than you solving a cube, because not only do you get the hit of everybody seeing the cube solve, which is amazing as it is, but then you get the second moment where everyone then gets to watch that person going, wow, I've just solved a cube. And I've seen, you've got some really nice, twists on this, Josh. I've seen the way that because it's all about the wording, and it's all about the way that you present this trick. And I think there are various techniques that you can use to make it really fooling, and also make sure that it doesn't go wrong, because sometimes it does. As people know that do the solution, sometimes they'll bring it out and it is still mixed up, and that's okay. There are ways to move around that, but that doesn't normally happen to me anymore, because I've just done it so many times, and there are different language uses that you can use, and I think it really shouldn't scare you off a magic trick if it might go wrong at one point, because there's normally a way around it.
I think the most important thing as well is the customer experience as well. Like, you bring somebody up on stage and celebrate them as the hero, celebrate them as being able to solve the cube behind their back. There's nothing more. The way I go into it, because I use that to close out my routine. And I say, like, have you ever tried to, like, normally get someone I've been interacting with in the show, they've made some choices or whatever it might be, and I say, have you ever solved one of these before? And you're like, never? I can't have you go your whole life without ever solving a cube. Do you wanna? And they go, yeah, I'd love to learn. I go, yeah, bring them up on stage. And then they get to walk away being like, you know, when somebody asks them, can you solve these? They can say, I've solved it once. And that's like a nice feeling for them. Like that customer experience is ideal.
It's
Yeah.
brilliant. And to be honest, my favorite moment is if you get them and they have it like one move away, because
Yes.
that sometimes happens, and that is just so sweet because it feels like they really are, and then they actually finish it, and it's just a
Yeah.
lovely bit of dialogue that they have where you don't have to do anything. You're hands free, and therefore you just put all your energy into
So
the thing.
do you get them?
Outcome? Would you force that outcome where they have to do one more move?
No, because sometimes it does actually come out like this by
Yeah.
accident, and
Yeah.
if I give, you know, if I was to force this outcome, there is a risk that it might come like this, and then you're a bit stuck, because
Yeah.
for someone that has never held a cube before, that's actually very hard for them to work out.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So this is blowing my mind. So you actually, if it is one move away, you get them to finish the one move?
oh, that's the ideal situation. Yeah,
Holy
absolutely.
crap. Because I've always taken it and done the one move for them. But the fact that, like, that makes so much sense. Why wouldn't you get them to do the last move?
Yeah.
If they
You
just done the
you
whole
just say
thing behind
finish
their
it,
back.
finish it,
So-
do it, complete it,
Yeah, so-
and
because the way I do it,
Ah,
right,
yeah.
is I have two cubes, and then I explain that, you know, if I was to try something behind my back, there's no way it would, like, you'd be able to do it in 1,000 years. I then give it to them behind their back, and then I take the cube, and with a single hand, I get them to, like, I'm facing the audience, and they're facing me. As in, like, sorry, my back's towards the audience, but they're looking at me, and I go, take a deep breath, and I solve it with one hand behind my back, and then I say, stop. And then I look back at my audience and I say, is it done? And they go, yeah. And I'm like, on the count of three, raise the cube above your head. And when they raise the cubes above their head and they're a perfect match and they're both solved, that's great. But what I'm saying is, like, you can stop it. You'd be like, we should be one move away. Bring it above your head. Then they can both have one move away. I can go next to them, give it a turn, and you've just solved your first cube. I wonder if that's a stronger effect.
You got
than
to try it.
actually-
Yeah.
Do you think I should give it a try
Yeah,
in the next
yeah.
show?
Give it a try and let's find out. Because it definitely feels like it makes it more convincing. But then, here's the thing. Anyone who, because Daniel and I have been chatting about this a little bit, and he made me aware of something that I didn't even know was possible with this routine. And that is, and you'll have to message Daniel to find out where to find the work on this. But for those who know the solution, know what's going on. But Daniel explained to me there is a version of this now where you can actually, like, behind it, they're even more fooled because behind their back, they actually are twisting the cube behind their back, right? Like, they are twisting it. And then when they bring it out, it's still solved and they're still mind blown. Like, without giving away any methodology here, like, what's been your experience doing that? Does it fry the spectator more, or is it just like a magician thing that's cool to
I think
be able to
it's
do?
one of those things where you want to do it when you really need to fool someone, because it's one of those tricks that does it. I think, yes, the method is almost better in that respect, because they are literally turning the cube and it comes out solved and it's like, wow. But I think there are a few caveats with the presentation that you have to get them to do before they start mixing. And I think if there's any way that you can avoid that, like, you know, that's better. So from my experience, the Michael Murray version is still my favorite, because it is so simple and it's so brilliant, and you can do it in any way you want. I'm sure, as all three of us do it, I'm sure we'll do it in completely different ways and a different presentation. And that's what I think makes a good magic trick, because it's almost like a tool for you to then be able to, you know, do in any way you like.
Yeah.
So yes, it is more fooling, this other one, and I love it because it's very magician-y, but I don't think it's perhaps the most flexible presentation. You know, you kind of got to do it that one way if you're going to do it. But Michael Murray's version is a way that you can really just go nuts.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to use that principle in more of my shows. I'd love to do it where they bring out a mixed up cube behind their back still, which I know this isn't a new idea. This is something lots of people do, but they this could then be a force mix, or it could be anything, and you can, then build it up. And I was thinking, I want to use so I've got a Rubik's Cube wall now, which is very exciting in my world. Possibly embarrassingly so, but this is a wall of Rubik's cubes that you can do all kinds of things with. But what makes my wall special is, again, it's non-gimmicked. It's not. There's no tricks in it. It is literally just a wall of Rubik's cubes. There is no. It's not a. You can buy Rubik's walls online, and they can have pictures on and stuff, and that's great. But I get more of a kick out of it, I guess, if the wall is entirely examinable, and you can literally hand those cubes out afterwards and there's nothing to see, and it's a see-through wall. There's no anything, and I think being able to do tricks where the pixels all create a name, or they all create a pattern that relates to that person, that is more amazing than having the same picture every show, to me. And so the idea that you can have the solution mixing up Rubik's cubes and then putting those Rubik's cubes into the wall to create the name from a collection of people. I mean, that sounds great. And I'm yet to do this, but I'd love to do the solution on mass and have like 5 people all mixing cubes, all putting them into the wall. And then at the end, you turn the wall around and it says somebody's name that is important in the show. I think, the sky's the limit. It's
Brilliant idea. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Before we go down diving into crazy methods and exposing things we probably shouldn't be to the audience.
Possibly not.
Let's throw the questions from our audience. Our first one comes from Tim asking them questions, and he just wants to know what magicians have influenced you.
So we've already mentioned a few cubers. I should mention Colin Klaus, along with Kev G, as the creators of the Refractor project. They do a big ungimmickless cube project, which is super fun. It makes patterns on the cube. They do lots of things with doing just one side, so one color. And I think this is a huge resource for anyone that wants to learn cube magic properly, because it has just so many different volumes that you can go into. And I think they've got 6 or 7 volumes out now, and you can choose which ones you want, and they'll tell you which kind of, which bits you get in each one. And they've got videos and great tutorials, and they'll teach you to solve a cube as well for free, I think. So they have been a great inspiration in terms of doing gimmickless cube magic, or magic with a completely normal Rubik's cube. I've always been a huge Darren Brown fan, as I'm sure we all are. I think his shows are just outstanding. I can't wait to see his next one. I'm sure I'll see it more than once. But I think his presentation and the way that he'll take a pretty normal trick but create something so moving and special with it is just that's like the dream, right? I want to be able to do that with as much magic as I can. I think he's his unique way of doing something is just so interesting to watch. And I will say as well, Derek Delgadio in and of itself always makes me cry. It's just you can't not feel it, and that's what magic is all about. I would also say there are a host of magicians that work at the Oracle that I've learned so much from, and I can mention a few. There's so Terry and Ben Francis is amazing. They do all kinds of things, but it's all very meaningful, and a lot of mentalism that they do is very it connects to the audience directly, and I think that's so important. To name a few magicians that I've been inspired by. I hope that answers your question.
It's great that you're crew too, right? Like when you've got your
Absolutely.
homeboys to lean on, like
And then to keep it just as sentimental, the next question is, what's your most embarrassing live performance moment? This seems like it might be coming from someone that knows this story. Is this a friend of yours, Rod?
This is a friend of mine. I don't think he knows this story, but it is a friend of mine nonetheless. Thank you for that, Rod. So I would say, for me, the one that comes to mind the most clearly, I was doing a Rubik's Cube match routine where it's all about the memories of the two spectators. And I do this at the Oracle often, and I bring these normally to a couple, and we know who the we can see in the Oracle who the tables and who is kind of sitting there. So if there's a couple, then they often will say, you go to this table, Dan, because you can do your couple routine. So very confidently I sit down and I do the memories, and we're talking about do you remember the first time you met each other? And oh yes, I do. And he turns the cube, and it's all about turning the cube each step of the way between the two people is the kind of narrative, until they both reach a point where they've both been mixing the cubes, and at the end they match, and it's almost like you were meant to be. And it's quite a nice, it's a meaningful way to bring a matching Rubik's cube together, and that's how it normally goes down. With this particular couple, they were sort of having me on in that it was a first date, it was a blind date, and I don't think either of them had been in the Oracle for very long. So when I asked them, do you remember the first time that you met each other? And they were like, yes, we do. We moved on. And then it was, do you remember the first time you went on a date together? And at this point, I was assuming that they were together and had been together for a long time, until they matched. And as it turns out, they had just had a conversation to say that they weren't going to be talking anymore.
Have a second date.
It was just like, that was it. They were just going to be friends.
Whoa.
And I just had to say, oh, fair enough. Lovely to meet you both.
We're actually getting divorced. Thanks for having us. We've had a lovely time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cubes are the only thing that'll match with us.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on the other side of an entirely embarrassing moment, we have a question from Eleanor Hunter, who's asking, what is your favorite memory performing magic?
So I think that would probably be recently. I did my first Rubik's Cube magic show in November, and it was just so special. It was just so rewarding to pile all these ideas in together and be able to perform it I did to my family at first, and it was very nice to get the feedback from people that wanted the best for me. I definitely think if you're a young magician going to a show, or an old magician, but if you're new to magic, going into doing shows, it's so important to do your first few shows, I think, to people that care about you, because it's a different environment to close-up magic. I would always say close-up magic, to get involved, you want to be doing it to as many different people that you don't know. But I think when you're doing a show and it's a piece as a whole, it might be 20 minutes, half an hour, the show can really be examined a bit more critically, I think, without causing any offense, if that makes sense. I think feedback is, you're going to get better feedback from your relatives if you're doing a show rather than close up, because you risk with close up people saying, you're brilliant, that was fantastic, and that's it. But if you do a show, they've got lots to talk about, lots to think about. They've all experienced it together, and you can even do a group census, a group survey. So for me, being able to perform that to my whole family and friends, it was a special moment, because it went well, but also I felt that there was a lot to grow on, and that was as a result of knowing these wonderful people.
Yeah, you need a safe space. Yeah,
that's
where
great
you can be vulnerable and give it a go. That's awesome.
One of my favorite moments was at a Helder Ramirez lecture, where a magician got up and said, what happens, because he's like, you do this and the person chooses that. He goes, yeah, but like, whenever I try to do magic for my girlfriend, she'll purposely like do this and this and this and this. And what do I do about that? and Helder just went, get a new girlfriend, and then moved on. That was it. So yeah, so that's one of the doubts, is obviously we're performing with people that know you, I suppose. It's like, you can be a dick, but then you're just a dick. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And
for sure.
Yeah. But I don't know, maybe folks in the UK are a little more classy. Keep in mind, you kicked a bunch of your people out and they came to my country, just so you know.
Boy. So tell us about the Oracle. What is the setup of this residency that you have? Is it a restaurant, or?
So it's a speakeasy bar in Liverpool, and it's a little bit secret. You have to knock on the door,
Yeah.
and if they've got room, they'll let you in. And it's kind of upstairs in the middle of Liverpool, which is just a bustling city. It's a city of energy. There's so much going on in terms of music, and the people are just so friendly and exciting. And I think I've never been to a city that has such a real character. And so nestled in this brilliant city is a speakeasy bar, where the whole bar is run by magicians. The bartenders and magicians, the everybody there is part of this community. And as a visitor, you are invited to sit down at a table. It's all candlelit. It's all very kind of Victorian setting. You can check it out on Instagram, and it's, the pictures are just phenomenal. And you will see a few magicians as you drink a fantastic cocktail that is themed around magic in some way, or is specially handcrafted. They've got their own list of cocktails, and it's just a fantastic place to work at and absorb ideas and talk to people and meet other magicians amongst loads of other interesting people.
Doesn't that sound amazing? That sounds so wonderful. Like, it would be so great. I imagine that, like, it would just be the type of thing where, like, magicians would finish a gig and go, "I'll just have one knockoff before heading home," and then
Absolutely
pop in
that.
and see all the lads.
I go see
And
Yes,
Daniel.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's always busy. It's such a it's such an exciting place to work because you never know who you're going to get. And sometimes you get people that have seen you before, and that's always exciting because then you've got to show them something different.
Mm.
And I mean, as a venue, it's quite intimate, it's quite small. I've never ever seen a venue like it. It's such an independent place, and it's the quality of magic that is performed there, that I've seen. I've been a visitor myself. I've there was a time where I wanted to be an oracle, for more than a year before I was able to sort of say that,
Oh shit.
kind of let in almost.
Mm.
The quality is just outstanding. Some of the mentalism that is performed there is it's so meaningful. It's all about creating, magic for the spectator, making them the star, and it's not about showing off. This is the kind of thing that they almost teach, which I think was
Wow.
such an important lesson to learn as a fairly new
great.
magician.
There
Yeah.
are magicians watching this going, man, how do I take that next step to start doing magic full time, or even to do magic professionally in any level? For having just like started that journey and starting it so well, like was there a moment or a thing you started doing or something that helped you get from like learning all this magic to now taking that step to doing it for a living?
I think going to Blackpool Magic Convention for the first time was a huge step in the right direction because I was allowed then to meet loads of other people that did it. And once I'd made those connections, I could then see them again. And it was just an overwhelming sense of, wow, there are real people in the world that do this niche career. And actually, if they're doing it, why can't I? And I think being able to then meet person after person from Blackpool was just the biggest step, the biggest kind of change. I guess before I went to Blackpool, I'm a part-time magician. I'm going to do architecture, and then it was, wow, this is so brilliant. There are so many people that do it. I simply must, become one of them.
Yeah, it's like the person who can run the 100-meter dash in a certain amount of time, and once one person did it, then like 5 people did it the next year. Like that mindset of being around other people that do it. Okay, it is possible. That's so fascinating. So one tip. It sounds like what you're saying is you got around the people that are doing the thing you want to do, essentially.
Yes.
So Tim's asking, is there a process to get your foot in the door? Is it like an invite to perform at this Oracle bar? Like, how did it kind of work for you to get in there?
So I basically, I said, I literally emailed them first and they invited me in, and they were very encouraging, but it was kind of they sort of said you need to kind of work on your routines a bit more before you're, at the level that we want. And that was, a good few years ago. And then as time went on, I then sort of I remember going in as the visitor and said, listen, I'd love to work here again. And then as I did more magic and grew on social media, I think that prompted more of a connection to be made. And when they could see that the magic that I was doing was at a good level, I think that was when it allowed me to be able to have my first trial shift, if you like.
I know what you mean. I manage a lot of residencies here on my side of the planet. And I remember hanging out one time and this guy comes over to me and he's like, I think I'm ready to perform in your venues. And I was just like, I don't remember asking you.
Yeah.
It's the first thing I thought. Like, I was like, I didn't ask this guy. Who is he to assume that that just because he's in the scene that like he gets this privilege?
Yeah.
And I was like, I was sort of taken back by that. And I just went, okay, cool. Well, sure. Let's see what you got, man. Okay. So, okay. And I was like, all right, brother, you need a little bit of work. Get it together. Get me 5 solid routines. Come back and see me in 6 months. I'd love to see that. And I've got guys that I've literally done that. They came to my home, in this very home, jammed, and I've gone, come back when you stop doing the nervous laughter every time you say something. Do a card. Do the card. And I'm like, okay, go work on that. Come back. And now these guys are employed regularly for that reason. But it's really cool that there is a place that allows people to elevate themselves and to be guided by other magicians. Because look at this, man. Like 6 months ago, you weren't a full-time magician. It's because of these sorts of things in community that it's so important.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that exists, because a lot of people spin out that they're not very supportive, that there's some sort of contention or that we're in competition with each other. It's just not the case in our community. I know in some there is. And I just find that when it is, nobody wins when we're in competition with each other.
Yes.
I
think you have to just build on each other's ideas, and it's all about pushing each other. I think that meeting lots of people that do magic was 100% the best thing I could have done.
Yeah. Interesting question here from Ed. Sorry, Josh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, the other thing I've noticed you've done well quickly as well is things like your branding, like your website. When you go to your website, already looks very polished. It has a professional video playing in the background on that kind of parallax sliding kind of website look, which is like it seems like you've quickly put in the time to go, okay, I need to look professional to match, what I want to kind of do. Is that advice that other magicians gave you, or you just naturally were like, okay, I need to make my stuff look good?
Yeah, well, I think finding the magicians that are doing the kind of business that you aim to do, and then sort of copying the bits that you like in that kind of respect, that's so important. I think getting my first show reel was brilliant. I was so excited about that because it actually had, it was a professional quality of magic that was happening at a wedding. It was just so like I've been dreaming about that for so long. I think once you have those building blocks set up, it's a springboard to be able to just get out there. So definitely getting a show reel for the first time was great. And yes, as you know, that is then all over the website.
Yeah.
So just while we have while we slowly draw to a close, we'll just punch through a few more questions from our listeners here. We have one from Ed. Interesting one. It says here, is there a specific card move that you cannot master well enough to perform?
Absolutely. There are far too many. There are so many different things I would love to learn with cards. I think the one that I'm most keen on mastering now would probably be a really clean card spring. I know it's really basic, but I can only do it this far at the moment, and I would not be confident. Yeah, no, I'm like, this is probably the best I can maybe go that far.
It's just funny because it's like, mine's this big. It's not a dick measuring contest, buddy. It's
no,
okay.
But it's something that you want to be able to do if you're asked to do it, and I've always tried to do. I just haven't put the time aside to fully learn it. But that is if that's the bane of my life in terms of cardistry or anything like that. I would love to learn that properly, just because it's like a kind of rite of passage. It seems, perhaps.
I mean, you've got the hair to do like the shin limb spring and have the hair flowing at the same time. So,
Oh, thank you.
you know,
Yeah.
you're in the you're halfway
Question
there.
here from David Russell. David Russell is asking, I'm curious the percentage of y'all's performance are scripted for tailored shows / street performing. Do you have a script for most of the things you perform?
Yes and no. I think it's important to jam and do magic that is original, and there's something really special about changing the script if something happens. If somebody does mix up a Rubik's cube, it's so important to change it, change the script, and actually make your script then about genuinely solving it, if that is what you need to do next, or taking a piece off and finding something inside, or I think having a script is great and really important to have a couple of those routines that you can just bash out if need be. But I think being able to jazz and do your own thing is so important as well. It's that balance, I guess. So I hope that answers your question, David.
Yeah. And Josh, do you want to sort of share a thought on that one as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I find the most entertainment comes from the moments that people feel like I improvised, but done so well. So I will have the structure to get us from the start of the routine to the end of the routine, but I'm constantly looking for those moments to adapt and change it. So whenever I do particularly a parlor show at the Theatre of Magic, last week we just did a bunch of shows, and I'm just waiting for someone to say something so I can change the routine a little bit. And like the purest example was that clip I just put out on Instagram yesterday is a moment where normally a woman is on stage holding the deck and she's going to name a card. I'm going to have her cut and find her own card, but she just names a non-card. She's like, the ace of queens. No, the queen of aces. And I'm like, okay, this is the routine. So now...
And you build off it.
I'm like, that goes out the door, what I had in mind. I'm like, great. I'm like, the ace of queens? Oh, okay, I am going to cover my ears because I don't want to hear that. And then we make jokes. And then I'm like, all right, how about you just pick a random card? And now that becomes the way we're going to still get to the same ending I was going to end with anyway. But... so that's how I approach it. But definitely you should have a script, because otherwise you're in trouble if nothing happens for you to latch onto.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What about you, Nick?
I think that there's a roadmap that scripts create, and they allow you to go off script, because I think the worst thing is sort of going through situations where you sort of and ah, or you don't know where you're going. There is a comfort that an audience experiences knowing that you are in control. That like some people you'll meet, they'll be like, oh, I was so worried that I screwed it up. And it's like, no, like if you can give them this comfort knowing that you're so competent that like you've got this, or where people want to challenge you, that you're so competent that like I tried to fight him and I tried to screw it up and he got me anyway, then all of a sudden you've earned their respect. You know what I mean? Because that's just sometimes like just the blue collar mentality of some people, where they used to like either have been an apprentice in the past, where they're given a bit of a hard time. They got to earn their stripes in order to become one of them. They kind of project that same ethos onto you. And so you got to show you have the stripes and earn their respect, and it's an egotistical thing. But if you understand the game, then you know how to play. And if you know how to play, you know how to win. So that's where I find the comfort in scripts. So
yeah,
100%.
I totally agree with that. Absolutely.
Should we do a since we've all been doing tons of gigs lately, should we do a gig stories, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I reckon.
Before this, I've got to ask. I've got one
Yes.
question for Nick that I'm before this ends. I'm dying to know.
Okay.
It's not going to end yet, but
all right.
keep going.
Yeah. Okay. But
I'm not being interviewed here. All right, you shut up, Ken.
You call yourself a professional mind blower, right?
Yeah.
And I've had a name like rebrand recently. I was just really curious to know why that was the name that you settled on, or like the title that you settled on.
Oh, the reason I loved it is because it didn't box me into being one particular type of thing. It didn't mean that I was stuck as a card guy, or I was stuck with some sort of identity as like, I'm this guy. It gave me permission to do whatever I want to do, so long as it blows your mind. So I
Absolutely.
can pick up a book, pick up a straw, grab a spoon, a piece of chalk and some whatever, right? And I can blow your mind with whatever. So the beauty of that is that no matter, like, I do stuff with Lego, bro. I do stuff with like pieces of fruit. I do stuff with like, you name it. And that's what I loved about it. But to be like, I'm the illusionist, it sort of sets up a thing that like, oh, you're that guy that like has the pretty girls and the blah. And it's like, no, I'm bald and fat. That's not going to suit me. Or that you're the card smith or so forth, you know? I didn't like the borders and boundaries that came along with any other title other than just being a professional mind blower. And it's a really cool way to hand out your business card, because people go, my mind's blown. And I go, that's what I do for a living. It says on my business card. And they go, professional mind blower. That's funny. I'm going to keep that, you know? And so that's the reason I chose that title.
That answers my question. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Oh, and so you could have just been like the mind blower, but I think having the notion of professional in front is important. There was a thing from the Mike Tyson documentary where they said, you're a professional fighter now. Do you know what a professional means? And he was like, what? And he goes, a professional fights no matter what. And that's why ever since I became a professional, when I became a professional magician, my notion behind that, and this is something I've never really shared this before, but my notion is that I'm a professional, which means I perform no matter what. And so if I've got a gig and my heart's broken, I'm still performing. If I've got a gig and I've had a death in the family, I'm still performing. Like that's the sort of notion I have with regards to calling myself a professional. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
That's the only way I know how to break that tension. That's great. And that perfectly explains why we had James Brown on 2 weeks ago, and he's the professional opportunist. Might mean pickpocketing, that might mean card skills, that might mean loading things under different parts of your watch or your shoulder, your body, or that could mean hypnosis, that could mean a whole realm of things in that same vibe. So gig stories is when we share. Well, we'll play the stinger and then we'll explain.
Yeah, I'll do it. So gig stories is the portion of the show where we talk about magical moments either while performing or our day-to-day life. Starting with, Josh, you want to do the first one?
Yes.
Okay.
Thought you'd never ask. This one, I love doing a routine where you give someone a deck of cards and you tell them to cut the deck behind their back. So they're cutting it like this. And then you're going to say, all right, take either the top or bottom one, put it in your pocket, right? That's the routine. Magicians know what's going on here. Now, prior to that, I had just done a warm-up trick with the audience, and someone picked a card. It was like the nine of clubs, and I'd done some stuff with it. I shot it out of the deck, caught it off my mouth, great. But I'm like, all right, let's put the magic in your hands. Now, this guy, it was a Christmas party, and you always got to be wary that people are a little more cocky at Christmas parties because they're like in a celebrating mode. They're maybe drinking more than they would because like, oh, it's a celebration. So I give this guy the deck and I can see his hands really moving behind his back. Like it seems like he's cutting the deck, but he's doing it really quickly like this. And I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. So anyway, I'm like, all right, I'm going to adapt to it. Fine. Brings the deck out and I'm looking at the deck so that I can now continue the routine knowing what card he's just put in his pocket without him even knowing. So, it's a mystery card plot. I look at the deck and I realize he hasn't cut the deck. He's been like doing this kind of thing, like whatever you call this, the Hindu shuffle. So he's basically really been shuffling this deck, interlacing the cards and stuff. However, something in my brain ticks. I just look at the deck hoping that I might realize what card's missing. And it occurs to me, oh, I didn't see that card that was first picked when I approached this group, the nine of clubs. I didn't see the nine of clubs when I just spread then. So luckily I realized, he has fooled himself now because he's shuffled the deck properly like 5 times and he's single-handedly taken out the card that the first person used in this group.
Oh, wow.
And they don't know what's happened yet. So I'm like, so now that becomes the routine. So I identify, thank God. If if he had taken any 51 other cards, I just couldn't have finished the routine like that. I would have had to just jump to a different kind of routine. But like, thank God he messed up my trick, but then took out one to make this trick better. And I was like, you know what? You could have shuffled that deck as much as you wanted, taking a card from anywhere. But what was the card you wanted at the deck? You said it was your favorite. And he's like, 9 of clubs. I'm like, what are the chances? And he takes it out. And I just walked away like a king. Like, you know, you all bow down to me. This is like exactly what happens every time. So that was my gig story. Literally happened this Christmas season. And, you know, sometimes you just got to be thankful for those moments and being able to identify those moments. But that was fun. All right, Nick.
That's an awesome
What
time.
is
Me?
Thank you. Yeah, what's your gig story? I was
going to say to our guest, would you like to share a gig story, or do you need a moment for me to do a bit of filler?
No, I'd love to.
You go first.
I don't mind if you want to go first. It's all good.
Let's go, Dan. Let's hear it.
I had a gig. This is a sort of similar story to you. I had one where I was doing cards and someone had shuffled the pack and I'd been around a bunch of tables and it was the end of the gig. And somebody said there was a table that I hadn't gone to, or at least a bunch of people I hadn't seen. They called me over before I left, and they said they'd had quite a bit to drink, but they were very, we want to see magic, we want to see magic. So I did a quick trick with the normal pack of cards. That was great. And then the second guy comes along, and he was your classic heckler, right? He was very raucous, very no, we don't want that card. We don't want that card. We want the 7 of clubs. And he made a real scene of this. And of course, I had the invisible deck with me. And when he asked to see the 7, it was obviously facing down in the pack. And that was great. But then the guy next to him said, no, I would have said the 9 of clubs. And of course, magicians will know that if you keep spreading, if those 2 cards have got something together, then it worked very nicely. But both the 9 and the 7 were the only 2 turned over, and everyone went nuts. And it was quite a special moment because I don't think they were expecting that at all. But the fact that both people really tried to sort of change the script, and then it worked out in the end, was really nice.
Oh, that's great. Jamming with the invisible deck is brilliant. I love it. You get the yeah. Hell yeah. I love it. I rate it. All right, Nick.
So I've been very, very silent about this. I'm very private about my personal life and so forth. But I'm going to share this because it's been a month. But on the 3rd of December, which was my birthday, I took my mum in for a hip replacement. And and I've just had gigs every day since. Like the same day I got to meet James Brown. It was a wonderful day. I had to perform that evening and so forth. So surgery supposedly went well, but mum, there was some nerve damage. We don't know if they severed a nerve or whatever else, but effectively my mother is in hospital and has no legs at the moment. And I've been very private about this. It's no one's kind of business, but if you are listening and you would kindly say a prayer so that she would heal and get better, that would be amazing. But she's been in hospital since. It's now the 17th of December. And they're doing a bunch of nerve thingies. We're going to try and fix her up so she can start walking again. We don't know how long it's going to take. But at the moment, she's got no leg. Okay. So I've been visiting her quite regularly at the hospital. And in one of my journeys while visiting mum, she, I rock up and I bring her some things and some chocolates and stuff. She goes, I don't want chocolates. I'm like, that's for you to make friends with the nurses. They'll take care of you. And you'd be like, every time they come and bring you something, thank you, love, help yourself to a chocky. You're so lovely. And, then they'll take care of you because you're here for a while. Right? She's been there for a couple of weeks now. And I'm hanging out with mom, and this lovely lady comes over and she's like, what do you do for a living? And I go, magician. She's like, I knew it was you. I've seen you perform. You did a blah, 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 blah. You're amazing. Oh, it's so cool to see you again. And I was just like, oh, thank you so much. This is my mom, And she's like, oh, your son's amazing. Blah, 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 blah. It's so cool. And I'm like, oh, thank you very much, And then she went away. But it was just a really beautiful moment to like share with my mom that she kind of sees like the effect of what my magic or what my love kind of for the game does to be able to help her out. And so they've been taking really good care of her. And we've got some good news. I think it's going to be okay. It's going to be like a 6-month thing and some nerve stretching and whatever else. Like she's going to be okay. But that's been like my life over the past whatever. So thank you for your kind words and sending your positive thoughts and prayers for mum. She's going to love that. And I'm going to love you guys for it too. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's great, man. That's so cool. And what a gift for her to see that effect from her son. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Look, we've run out of time, which is it happens always when we have a really interesting guest that time flies. Now, I want to encourage you guys to scope out Daniel's work. His links are in the description of wherever you're watching or listening to this. But in case they're just in their car listening to this, Daniel, they can find you on Instagram. It's is it Daniel_Maze_? Is that?
That is the one.
Yes, Daniel_MAZE_ or your website, which is
danielmaze.co.uk.
Yeah, check it out, because anyone up and coming, like, this is the standard of website you should be having if you want people to take you seriously and want to book you for gigs. So let's keep in touch with Daniel. I know I am going to be really interested to see how you evolve over time and what you end up doing, where you end up going. But look, we're going to leave this episode in the way we end every episode, which is with the final word, which we give to our guest. So we're going to give that to Daniel right now.
Thank you so much for having me today. I guess the biggest thing I want to leave everybody on is it's so important in magic to remember that it's endless. And if something feels impossible to do, there is almost always a way to get around it. So always something I've tried to always try and do is talk to people and work out that way to make that thing happen, whether it's presentation or method or anything at all. There is almost always a way, and Rubik's cubes are not just matches and solves. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for listening. It's time for us to disappear now. But we'll see you again on the next episode of The Magic Guys.